Very nice. Well, thanks for inviting me and staying up super late. Let's see if I could do the share screen stuff. Yeah, let's see if this works.
Yes, it
Yeah,
does. Yep.
Can you like see my whole screen here?
Perfectly. Yep.
Gosh, we're living the future. You know, I don't use Zoom that much, so I'm very delighted in that sense. Yeah, well, I guess that part of our conversation was that since hitting the end of this this marvelous event for the third time, that we use this opportunity, I think, to spark or invite more conversation rather than to present a whole ton of research. Because, as you know, times are a little bit different now. There just isn't that much research about that or what's going on here, right? So if you remember me from a couple of years ago, I shared this quote from Yogi Berra that was, "The future ain't what it used to be," which Yogi Berra said 1970 something, and he just meant that the future is just a little more different than what we thought it would be. But Yogi's famous for saying things in very weird ways, so that kind of start that there, sparking comment, again, some reflections and an invitation for a larger conversation, I hope. So share that with you guys. So last time we met, and actually it's actually the previous two times, because I had to look at what I shared with you guys. I shared this really awful, ugly chart, which I'm not going to talk about too much here. But I was talking about the shifts that we had that were going from really from the 1940s into today, where relationships used to be simple, but now they're much more complex, and we're seeking out goals to each other, or the goals or the outcomes becoming more, that the goals are creating their own outcomes. We're seeking out more synergies with each other. We're asked to design our worldviews more often. Time and space is just compressing in our minds, right? Things are happening so fast that it seems that everything is anti-causal. We can't tell what's causing what anymore. We see more organizations engaged in creative destruction, maybe not so much in education. And of course, much more globalized than we were before. And then I pushed this out to also help explain what the university would look like in 2068. That's kind of my thinking was, and was talking with working with quite a few universities to plot out, so what does this mean, and what do we mean, what does this mean for us as institutions? So looking at the university of really being facilitators for this nomadic new paradigm that are much more adaptable, much more agile, much more engaged in the world, facilitating these relationships as much as possible. And I also talk about nomads a little bit, who are, you know, the future workers, pretty much, or the emergent workers, which are creative, imaginative people who can work just about anytime, anywhere, and with anybody. And they contextualize what they know to solve problems, right? So I take what I know and apply it in new areas, sometimes new fields. When problems arise, I'm able to work with context. Not like pressing a machine button or anything, but it's like, let's like working to create new value. So I'll really focus on the question, so what can I bring into the world? And there's a real futures orientation in this, because this is where we have opportunities for transformation, opportunities for change, but also presents a challenge for universities, because we're largely responsible for producing nomadic workers. And so I think that key elements for education are built in the areas of agency and self-efficacy. And you can hear my cat meowing in the background. He's just going insane because he thinks I'm talking to him. So agency is just being allowed what you want to do, but self-efficacy is about believing in yourself that you can make these changes happen. I think that when we have a combination of both high agency and high self-efficacy, it really enables nomads to really grow and blossom and build their own futures. And I really described 2 years ago, I really described my vision for the University of the Future as being a festival more than anything, that kind of brought people together, sharing, hopefully having fun along the way, and learning from each other. And you can, festivals are spaces where you can also flow from activities or ideas, following your own passions as well. Yeah, but then what happened? Right? It's like game over, guys. This lovely pandemic hit us, and it changed everything. It threw, as we would say in English, it threw a wrench in the system, and it's a freaking mess. I mean, if we look at stuff worldwide, it's absolutely horrible. And the United States is actually a little too much red in there, but I don't want to underemphasize the damage caused here. But we have more reporting areas, so we have more red dots. But it's just been absolutely atrocious. Schools around the world have shut down, universities have shut down, and then you've got in the United States and neighboring countries, like sports are a huge part of universities too, and so it's also creating problems like, well, what do we do about sports, right? And so we're seeing snowball effects and how this stuff impacts higher education. But the sobering reality, though, going into this is that the world was not making adequate progress towards ensuring inclusive and equitable education for all, which is Sustainable Development Goal 4 by 2030 was our benchmark for that. Now, this mostly impacts primary and secondary education, but these are also our pipelines for tertiary education. So universities need this, and inclusive and equitable education is a huge part. The other tough thing is that formal education, which is highly structured, it is not built for adaptability, it is not built for change, it has not figured out how to adapt to this. As I said before, like the United States, universities are stuck orbiting around the question, so what do we do about sports, right? Can't think outside these boxes, or outside of like, well, we have to do these things. And that's really difficult because we're seeing a lot of innovation in many other fields. And you would think that in the institutions that produce more nomads than anybody else, that we'd be on top of this. And the world needs nomads more than ever to help bring individual level knowledge to solve problems. So I'm doing a lot of work since the start of this. Been doing a lot of work for the World Bank, and one of the things that I really appreciate about them is that they have adopted this 3-point strategy or advisement strategy for policymakers at the very beginning, and I really appreciate them taking this on right away. Their first point is just coping. You know, it's try to make the best of the situation, minimize negative impacts, then focusing on recovering. Right. So this is about serious implementation of policies and measures to regain what was lost. Right. Because we've lost a lot of ground, especially in the measures for Sustainable Development Goal 4. And then there's preparing, which is the future side of it, and having a futures mindset right away to plan for the future, and really making the best of this opportunity for transformations and building resiliency. And it hasn't been just the World Bank thinking that way, but also with UNESCO. We've seen the World Economic Forum has been talking about using this as an opportunity for transformation as well. Now, the big challenge for us in education is, can we do this, right? Or can we start to work or think outside of the structures that we're really built around? So coping has been about adapting to online spaces, which we see in a lot of universities. What I like about Connect-Universum is that this has been an online space for years. So you guys have this figured out. This is all around reducing or eliminating in-person contact. Academic calendars have been adjusted. Some places just given up and just canceled everything. Many places have refocused on delivering core services. So just what are the basic essentials that young people need? And for universities that provide housing and restricting access to them, or how this stuff works, right? These are all coping strategies that I think are very simple well, that may not simple to implement, but simple to discuss as policy measures. Now, recovering is this sort of getting back to normal. And the big question is, do we have any plans to regain what was lost, right? Or what are we going to do about that? And these things are just simply not being discussed. I mean, maybe in the future, when we're able to look back and do research as to what happened, we'll see areas where this stuff was discussed, but it's just not there. And the other big question is, can we afford to go back to normal? If we were failing as a planet on achieving the goals that we've set, do we really want to go back to normal? Is this something that we really want to discuss or keep as an option? And then we got the preparing side. We got to start planning for the future that we desire. And this is something that we're not seeing universities lead conversations in quite yet. And we also need to be ready for new waves of massive disruption. Today, it's a health epidemic. Tomorrow, it could be brought on by artificial intelligence or who knows what, economic failures, who knows what. But we have to be prepared for more waves, because as the world continues to change at a rapid pace, we're going to see a lot more disruption as we move towards the future. So this is it. We've got so the game was over, but we got a second chance here. We got a vaccine coming around, and this is really our opportunity to build the university of the future, and to really start planning and start viewing around that, enabling the worldviews that we want to create, adapting to rapidly changing landscapes. Crafting new spaces, facilitating the relationships, and engaging the world. So engaging the world, I think, is one of the things that you guys are doing very nice today. So of course, happy to be here. And I think that we could build this festival, but we just really need to start talking about it. So again, this was more of just want to provoke conversation, invite conversation. And I also want to share an invitation. So starting in January, I'm taking over as editor of a journal called On the Horizon, which publishes a lot of stuff on the future of education. So I'd like to invite everybody here to take a look at it, maybe consider contributing to it. I want to use this as an opportunity to run hard and push forward with some challenging ideas as we face new education futures. So interested in that, you can write to me about whatever. So I'm at john@educationfutures.com. And guys, I think that's all I have to share, because I wanted to start a conversation. Yeah, that's it.